The Buckeyes have locked in a first-round bye and a trip to the Cotton Bowl, putting Ohio State one step closer to its ultimate goal, a national championship.
You are Locked On Buckeyes, your daily podcast on the Ohio State Buckeyes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome in, Buckeye fans, to your Monday edition of Locked On Buckeyes, which is your daily Ohio State podcast, part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your host, Jay Stevens, veteran sports talk host, delivering passionate coverage about your Buckeyes. And today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. During today's show, we will discuss what it's going to be like for Brian Hartline to play double duty over the next few weeks, as well as what the Buckeyes' mindset must be moving forward. But first, Ohio State earns a first-round bye in the college football playoff, and the college football playoff committee got it correct. When the Buckeyes lost the game on Saturday night, there were a lot of people wondering where the committee would put the Buckeyes. Would they fall to number 2, number 3, or maybe even the number 4? But it was going to be really shocking if the Buckeyes fell outside of the top 4 and didn't get a bye in the college football playoff. They earned that. They were very, very, very dominant all season long, from the game against Texas all the way through the game against Michigan. You clearly saw Ohio State separating themselves from most teams in college football. All of a sudden, you play Indiana, a team that was better than you on Saturday night, and you were wondering if the committee would prove a point by dropping the Buckeyes really far. They didn't do that. They dropped one spot. They fell to the number 2 spot, which is the best case scenario for Ohio State. You get a first-round bye. Your first game is going to be on New Year's Eve. It's in the Cotton Bowl, a place where Ohio State played a year ago, so it's not like you're going to a bowl on a day that you are not familiar with. No, you went there a year ago, so you know the lay of the land. You know what's going on. You got a lot of players that maybe didn't play significant roles in that game a year ago, but they know what it's like to be in the Cotton Bowl. But then also, you're playing Miami or Texas A&M. Two really good teams, two teams that are the number 7 and 10 teams in the CFP in the playoff. Miami number 10, Texas A&M number 7, and you've earned this right. You played to win the game. You didn't win the game, the last one you played, but you're getting rewarded for the body of work in your resume that you put out there this year on the field. You can't ask for anything else. Ryan Day has a really good team right now, clearly the second best team in the country, because you look at the defense, very, very strong. Look at the offense. When it's clicking and when it's efficient, they're really hard to stop. I know we can look at and see what have you done for me lately, and it's very easy to look at the game against Indiana and say, well, Ohio State's struggling. Ohio State has issues. Ohio State literally ran into a team that's really, really, really good. Also, Ohio State got in their own way, and they weren't able to overcome some of those self-inflicted wounds. But hats off to Ryan Day, hats off to the players, so hats off to the coaches, because they have earned this right. You have earned the right to get a first-round bye, which is very beneficial for a team that is trying to keep their mind right and trying to figure out the right steps moving forward, because some teams learn a lot of lessons via losses. We saw last year Ohio State, when they won the national championship, they learned a lot of lessons in the Oregon loss, learned a lot more lessons in the loss to Michigan, and all of a sudden they turned the tide very quickly after the loss to Michigan and ran through the first 3 teams. Actually, the Texas game was really close, but they opened up the offense and just lit up the scoreboard against Tennessee and against Oregon. And I have no doubt to think that Ohio State won't light up the scoreboard and won't learn from the lessons that they learned against Indiana in Lucas Oil Stadium. But you have to make sure you learn those lessons. You have to make sure that moving forward, the offensive line has some changes. You have to make sure that on defense, you tweak certain things. You have to make sure when it comes to getting a better pass rush, you have to consistently get a better pass rush. You have to learn lessons from the loss. Bo Jackson has gotten better all season long. I would have loved to see him tote the rock a little bit more against Indiana. Pass protection had been getting better late in the year. Would have liked that to be cleaned up. So saying it's not getting sacked 5 times in a game. The pass defense had been strong, had weak moments against Fernando Mendoza. You like to see those things strengthened and worked on over the next few weeks. The Buckeyes have a lot of lessons they can learn. They're being rewarded for their play this year by getting this number 2 seed, but also there is some valuable practice time that they are going to get over the next few weeks. As much as I don't like the long layoff, I think this team can utilize this long layoff in a very valuable way. Think about where you are for your Ryan Day. Ryan Day's in a really good spot right now because he stayed up pretty late on, well, didn't go to sleep, didn't get much sleep between Saturday night and Sunday morning because he watched the game, he watched the film, watched it numerous times, he digested it, it made him sick, and he is right now putting a plan in place moving forward for the team to tackle these issues head on, not trying to dodge them or trying to find a route that's a little bit of a plan B or plan C. No, you have a plan A and you attack that thing head on. Also, really, I'll say that for later in the show because I don't want to dive into something that's a longer conversation at this point in the first segment on a Monday pod. Ohio State earned it. Now, the rest of the playoff, the rest of the bracket goes like this. Indiana's number 1, Ohio State's 2, Georgia's 3, Texas Tech is 4, 5 Oregon, 6 Ole Miss, 7 Texas A&M, 8 Oklahoma, 9 Alabama, 10 Miami, 11 seed in the bracket is Tulane, 12 seed in the bracket is James Madison. Those are the 20th and 24th ranked teams in the CFP rankings, but because those are the last 2 highest ranked conference champions, they get automatic bids into the college football playoff. I personally don't like that at all. I can't stand it. If you look at the betting lines via FanDuel Sportsbook, you will see that they are, I think one's a 17-point underdog, the other's a 21-point underdog. And it's not just because they're a group of 5. There's clearly a gap between those 2 teams and the rest of the field. Also, Notre Dame was the first team out. BYU was the second team out. If they replaced Tulane and James Madison, it would clearly be a stronger playoff. You were looking at a field that you could say, oh, this is going to be a lot of good football for us to watch. But this is the way the bracket is. I still think the committee, well, the conferences hadn't changed it because they didn't want to go into a 12-team playoff and say, oh, no, well, the Pac-12 is no longer a conference, so we want to include the little guy, even though the little guy is not a part of the big part of college football. And by including them, you're getting 2 teams here that should get blown out in the first round of the college football playoff. And it's not like a SMU getting blown out. No, these are teams that aren't even on the same spending level, not on the same recruiting level, not on the same guy. They're not getting the same players out of the portal as an Ohio State, as a Miami, as a Texas A&M, etc. So that's how the playoff committee is. That's how things are. The first round matchups, James Madison travels to Oregon. Alabama travels to Oklahoma. That'll be a really good game. Tulane travels to Ole Miss. Miami travels to Texas A&M. Indiana's going to play in the Rose Bowl on New Year's Day. Texas Tech will play in the Orange Bowl. The Sugar Bowl is Georgia, and Ohio State is in the Cotton Bowl. The Buckeyes are in the first round bye. That's the bracket. That is the CFP rankings right now. As weird as it is, as much as some of us don't like the format and the way things are, in 2026 and beyond, you better hope Tony Petitti and Greg Sankey start to change certain things, because if not, we're going to get more stuff like this. It will be right here on a show the day after the rankings are released, voicing our opinion about how this doesn't make any sense. You know what does make sense? Ohio State's plan moving forward. There are some necessary steps Ryan Day should take so the Buckeyes have the right mindset when they get back on the field on New Year's Eve. This episode is brought to you by Game Time. The World Cup is coming back to North America for the first time since 1994. And with 48 teams for the first time ever, it's going to be massive. But let's be honest, getting tickets is usually the hardest part. That's why the Game Time app is clutch, finally giving fans a real advantage when it comes to snagging seats. With Game Time, you can track price drops in real time, get alerts when great seats open, and buy tickets the moment they hit the app. It puts the power back in your hands and makes going to the World Cup realistic instead of impossible. You pull up the app, and the layout makes it so simple to scroll through matchups and compare seat views. Pick a game, tap a section, and you have your tickets locked in within minutes. No confusion, no hunting for fine print. Take the guesswork out of buying World Cup tickets into every match, concert, or event with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply again. Download the app, make an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download Game Time today. Thank you for making Locked On Buckeyes your first listen of the day and for making Locked On the #1 sports podcast network. You already live your team every day. Now take it up a level and go ad-free. Join the Everydayer Club today and get Locked On Buckeyes with no interruptions, members-only Discord access, and more. All for just $5 a month or $50 a year. Go to lockedonbuckeyes.supercast.com. Once again, go to lockedonbuckeyes.supercast.com or check the link in the show notes to learn more. Ohio State, while they're in a great spot getting a first-round bye, they're not in the spot they want to be. They got, I won't say exposed, but they got put on Front Street on national television for having some errors and some flaws with the team that have not been fixed. We detailed some of them in our live reaction show on Saturday night. If you did not check that out, it's on YouTube and on your favorite podcast listening app. Go back and check it out and listen to what we said as we reacted to Ohio State's loss to Indiana. Well, in that show, we talked about the offensive line issues, the short yardage issues, issues scoring in the red zone, kicking issues, and some stuff on defense. We detailed those. Those have been issues all season long. And those issues coming up against Indiana, that just taps into Ohio State leaning into making sure they stay laser focused and fix the issues before they get back on the field. Now, the red zone stuff, I think the red zone issues can be fixed. Some of it is situational play calling. Some of it is personnel. There's no reason why Ohio State should have used so much 13 and 14 personnel against Indiana. Because you know what Indiana was doing? If you're going to use 3 and 4 tight ends, we're going to stack the box. Because you're kind of tipping off what you're doing, and we trust our corner and D'Angelo Ponds to defend Jeremiah Smith. And if it gets a little physical, well, we know that Ponds can be a physical corner while he gives up 50 pounds to Jeremiah Smith and defend him very well. And so IU had a good game plan, and Ohio State kind of leaned into what IU wanted to do, and they did not get out of their own way. But that's what has to happen moving forward. You can't allow the issues that have been there all year that got almost exposed, but they got put on Front Street against Indiana to come up once again in the Cotton Bowl. Because then it's not a Brian Hartline thing. We're looking at Ryan Day once again and saying, why in the world is it a loss to Indiana? Why are those issues coming up then? And then why are they coming up once again down the road? It wasn't an injury issue. It wasn't a personal problem like Ohio State didn't have guys that could score against Indiana. It wasn't any of that. It was play calling. It was personnel. It was issues that have been there all year, and they have not fixed them. One thing I will say quickly, and I'm not going to wait any longer for this, there's absolutely no reason why Tagovailoa should have played a first half of football against Indiana. None whatsoever. He was a problem from Jump Street. And you can go back and watch the film, look at the first quarter, look at that part there. And if you say, who is the weakest link on the Buckeyes offensive line, it is number 77. And you're trying to figure out to yourself, he's a real liability. Do they have an answer? Do they have a backup plan? If you're someone flying in for this game or just flying in, looking in for the first time all year, you would wonder why Ryan Day is allowing a guy that has that many issues to be on the field. I literally had somebody talk to me about Aigman Olsen in the middle of the season, and they're wondering why he is playing as often as he is when he is not playing up to the Ohio State standard of corner as far as how many penalties he commits, and they were confused because Ohio State, throughout the history of the team, never let a guy on the field that often. Aigman Olsen got better. I wouldn't say he's a great corner, but Aigman Olsen got better. But can you afford for some of the issues that Ohio State had against Indiana to come up against Texas A&M or Miami? No. Why? Because they can lose again. This isn't like Ohio State isn't better than those two teams. They can lose again. Miami has some dudes on both sides of the ball. A&M has some dudes on both sides of the ball. And they're looking at that film against Indiana, looking at that film against Michigan, looking at that film against some other teams Ohio State's played this year and just trying to figure out, okay, we know where some weaknesses are. And Ryan Day really hasn't fixed that issues this season. Do we think he's going to fix the issues over the next few weeks? Probably. But will he overcorrect? And I've said it on here before. The Colts are actually playing right now. I'm not watching the Colts on the TV in front of me while we're talking on the show. I don't want any distractions. We see what happens with Ryan Day and the team when there are distractions. I don't want any right now. But when I watch the Colts play, there are times that Shane Steichen decides to overcorrect, and it gets very annoying. And myself, my wife, my dad, my brother, people watching the Colts, they're all saying the same thing. You may want to use Jonathan Taylor at parts of the game, but you don't want to give it to him consistently. And then all of a sudden, when you realize, oh, we've gone away from Jonathan Taylor, you give him the ball, and you overcorrect, you give it to him too many times, and the defense is ready for it. Or Tyler Warren's not getting the ball enough. Okay, let's force it to him, and you force yourself into a 3-and-out. Or you are having issues trying to get the balls to your playmakers, throwing the ball down the field. You throw the ball down the field, overcorrect, you do it too much, and it becomes a problem. And I don't think it's a fear with Ryan Day that he's going to overcorrect. My only fear is that he's going to do what he did against Indiana once again with the offensive line. Teggler's going to start. Gabe Van Sickle's going to come in, and it's going to be too little, too late. On defense, some things you're thinking about laser focus and how they need to attack some of these issues. Oh, Berm said, I didn't catch snap judgments from 97.1 The Fan right after the game, but I saw on Twitter, Jay Book tweeted out a clip of a video that he put out there and said that Penn State tried to take Matt Patricia, and that was another distraction that really wasn't publicly talked about that could have been an issue with the defensive game plan and things of that nature. Penn State, once again, trying to disturb some things. They did it in the middle of the season with Brian Hartline. Brian Hartline called a basketball game against Penn State. Pat Patricia, really good defensive coordinator. It was not his best game of the year. It wasn't at all. But on defense, there are certain guys that can play. There's certain guys that at times when you're talking about these big games, you probably shouldn't put some of your backups on the field. I really like Devin Sanchez. But you know, especially with a quarterback like Fernando Mendoza, he is going to pick on the true freshman corner. He did it. Try to find a way to not situationally put guys in, but find ways to fix certain issues so that you don't have to put guys on the field. Here's one. Get off the field on third down. Literally getting off the field on third down erases so many issues the defense had. They wouldn't have been so tired. They probably would have had a better pass rush. I don't know if you try to put C.J. Hicks on, but whatever the case is, laser focused. You have one task. This is a one-game season. Where in the game against Indiana, it wasn't a one-game season. It was a part of your season. I kind of compare it to the conference championship tournaments, conference tournaments in college basketball where you're playing them. You're contractually obligated, I believe, to play in them. If you win the conference championship in your conference tournament, you're great. You're excited, but you realize win or lose, there's more ball to be played. It was exactly where Ohio State was in the game against Indiana. There was more ball to be played. But after this game in the Cotton Bowl, you're not promised another game at all. All you are promised is to play that game. So if you're not laser focused, if you're not locked in like you need to be, you could have these same issues come up against those teams, one of those teams, and you could lose in the Cotton Bowl. Nobody wants that. The Buckeyes won the Cotton Bowl last year. They lost the Cotton Bowl to Missouri. So what was that, 2 years in a row they played in the Cotton Bowl? I think. Not sure. But they've been in the Cotton Bowl. They know the lay of the land. They know what's needed. But this is a different challenge. Ohio State's talented. They're very talented. But you can't lean on your talent alone to win games. You got to have the right personnel on the field. There's no reason why Jeremiah Smith and Cardinal Tate should have been off the field as much as they were. You should not play as many tight ends as you have been all season. And make sure that when you put a plan in place to make some necessary changes, you do so with the right focus. Because if you don't, Ohio State could lose. We could be here having an early offseason. And I don't think anybody around here wants that to become a reality. One thing that did become a reality is Brian Hartline getting a new job. He's now the head coach at USF, and there are some specific things he can do and Ryan Day can do while Hartline is playing double duty over the next few weeks. This episode is brought to you by Omaha Steaks. The holidays come with two big goals: feeding people well and finding gifts they'll actually love. And when you want both handled in one move, Omaha Steaks is the way to go. From hosting to gifting, they deliver the world's best steak experiences right to your door. Because during their Sizzle All the Way sale, you can stock up and save in a huge way. 50% off site-wide at omahasteaks.com. And it gets even better. Locked On College listeners get an extra $35 off with code COLLEGE at checkout. I've sent Omaha Steaks as gifts before, and the reaction is always the same. This is the best gift ever. I love how easy it is to gift. Shows up frozen, packed beautifully, ready to cook. Steaks are perfectly aged and insanely tender. It's restaurant level at home. Save big on gourmet gifts and more holiday favorites with Omaha Steaks. Visit omahasteaks.com for 50% off site wide during the Sizzle All the Way sale and for an extra $35 off. Use promo code COLLEGE at checkout. Terms apply. See site for details. That's omahasteaks.com. Code COLLEGE. Thank y'all for tapping and Locked On Buckeyes, for making this show your first listen of the day. And thank you for making Locked On the #1 sports podcast network. If you're a diehard Buckeyes fan, the Everyday or All Access tier is built for you. You'll get one-on-one text access with me, all access episodes, an exclusive newsletter, and 15% discount to the Locked On merch store. Head to lockedonbuckeyes.supercast.com. Once again, head to lockedonbuckeyes.supercast.com to join the Everyday program and unlock all access. You could find the link in the show notes. And one thing Ohio State and Ryan Day can find and should find is a proper plan moving forward, as Brian Hartline is playing double duty. He has been at Ohio State for 8 or 9 years now, been a very big part of the assistant coaching staff, great recruiter, great eye for talent. First year calling plays consistently. He's had some really good games. He's had some struggles. This past game wasn't one of his best. And moving forward, I think him and Ryan Day need to walk together and have a plan in place so that when Brian Hartline is with Ohio State, he's fully locked in as much as he can be, because it's going to be very, very difficult for Hartline to have one foot in Tampa, Florida, and have the other foot in Columbus, Ohio, while trying to figure out who's going to the portal, while trying to figure out the proper game plan for the Cotton Bowl, while also trying to figure out who's on this coaching staff, while also trying to figure out the coaches you're going to be working with, so the coaches in Columbus are still working in sync to have the right game plan for the game in the Cotton Bowl. This is going to be very, very difficult. And I say work together because Ryan Day is open about it being a collaborative effort when it comes to the game plan, and everybody has input. And also, that's not going to change. Well, you know your offensive coordinator and wide receivers coach is going to be somewhere else next year. It'd be almost human nature to realize he is going to be very, very busy, and it's going to be hard for him to stay laser focused. Now, for the players, it's hard for them to be laser focused too. Hartline is moving, has to find a place to live. He has kids, he has a family, he has a wife, and so those things are added parts of this move and of this hire that Ryan Day has to tackle, and Ryan Day has to realize if something isn't going correct in a game, what is a plan in place to fix it? Or what can we do right now to help the team moving forward? Here's something that I think is very pivotal to Ohio State's attempt and attack at winning a national championship. Brian Hartline was an assistant coach last year when Ohio State won the national championship after losing to Michigan 13-10. And so it's uncharted territory with this team, but it's not uncharted territory with these two young men. And so when it comes to these guys, Ryan Day and Hartline, moving together, they can actually look back and see how the older veteran team from last year worked together after losing to the team up north, and trying to use some of those qualities with this team. The difference is this is a different team. You don't have a veteran leader in a quarterback in Will Howard. You have a second-year player, a true freshman quarterback in Julian Sand, who's one of the better quarterbacks in the country, but he's coming off a game where he made numerous mistakes that he normally doesn't make. How do you work together right now to help the young man keep his mind right and for him to play out of his mind moving forward? Offensively, a lot of the issues with Ohio State are offensively, which is weird because in a defensive battle, the defense didn't play their best, but the offense, my goodness. Were those distractions for Hartline a problem? Was the Chris Henry Jr. issue a big thing? It seemed like it were, but you got to put a plan in place. And a plan in place is game plan, film, maybe even put together some periods where, hey, I got to step out. And you got to realize that there may be a time when Hartline has to go away from his Ohio State duties to handle some duties with USF. Is that ideal? No. Honestly, I don't even like it. But I know for his own resume, it would be great if USF can say they have a national champ, a coach, a head coach that has 2 national championships as an assistant coach. That would be huge. 3 national championship appearances as an assistant, 2 that he won. And that's a part of Brian Hartline's resume that I think USF wants. However, Ohio State doesn't want that to be the USF thing to become so big, so much of a distraction that the next game plan is poor. I will say this though about the silent count that Ohio State had to go through in the Cotton Bowl. That was executed pretty well, and that's a testament to Hartline and Ryan Day and for their planning for how loud Lucas Oil Stadium will be when it comes to a neutral site game. Because that was loud. We watched the SEC championship when Georgia's playing in it, especially against Alabama. It's a very pro Bulldogs crowd. Well, this was a very pro Hoosiers crowd. It was a 1-hour drive for Hoosier fans who live in Bloomington. It was a 3-hour drive for Buckeye fans who live in Columbus. And it was clear when you looked out there, that was the first time, maybe ever, that I've seen an Ohio State game in Lucas Oil Stadium where you couldn't really hear the OHIO. And I'm not even sure if it went around the stadium. I have no idea. I was not there. And so I don't know. But Brian Hartline and Ryan Day, in their planning, they had a great game plan. They were prepared for the silent count, and it was great to have a quarterback, a center who is a quarterback of the offensive line, do a great job and be very composed with the silent snap count. Luke Montgomery quickly there hitting his leg. I would have liked to see a little bit more of Julian Sand going under center because I think that would have been a wrinkle to where that would have been something that Indiana could have planned for, but it would have helped in goal line situations where if, say, it is under center a little bit more, the game plan wouldn't have been so predictable. I know when David Adolph went out there on the field in the second half, I literally looked out there and said, David Adolph's on the field? Oh, it must be a run because he's mainly out there for a run. When you're so predictable, it's a problem. It's a big problem. And while Hartline is playing double duty, he can be predictable. The game plan cannot be one where you're walking in there, you're rolling in, and it's so easy for even a new college football fan to say, oh, why are they doing this? They're stacking the box. Their personnel is allowing the other team to stack the box. Why are they doing this over and over and over? This goes into these two guys working together and having a great plan put in place. A plan that allows Ohio State to put their foot on the gas and go. I saw Zach Smith tweeted, or maybe whoever's already Minister Sports, maybe it is Zach Smith on the Twitter page. I don't know, but I do know whoever it is said, let it rip. They had a picture of Ryan Day. Ohio State never let it rip on Saturday night. They didn't let it rip against Michigan. And you would think maybe the inclement weather dictated that. I don't think so. I don't think this offense is able to go as fast as we thought it could, which is a problem. You're spending so much time going from the end of the play to the huddle, getting the play in, saying doing a great job of communicating the play, then everyone's going to the line, and they're moving so slow that it's allowing the defense to have a great picture and a lot of time to rest and to get communication from the coach to the player, for the player to disperse that to the rest of his teammates on the field. So slow. So I don't even know, man. I don't know if there's a flip to switch or a button to push. I don't know because Ryan Day said, when it's time to put our foot on the gas, we're going to do it. Well, the time came 2 weeks ago. You didn't do it against Michigan. You get a pass because of the inclement weather. You didn't do it against Indiana when you should have. That was a problem. And I think when Hartline's playing double duty, Ryan Day must put his foot down and say, look, we got to go faster. We see what these guys do when we go faster. We know who's on the outside. Ain't no more of this 3 and 4 tight ends on the field. No, let's roll with our 3 wide set, put Max Clear in the field, and let this thing ride. Thank y'all for tapping in Locked On Buckeyes and making this show your first listen of the day. Make sure you subscribe and follow Locked On Buckeyes so you get all the latest episodes. Did Locked On Buckeyes make your Spotify Wrapped? Prove it on social media to secure a free month of our brand new Everydayer Club. Just tag our national Locked On Podcast Network account on any social platform and we'll drop you a code. Be one of the first to join the Everydayer Club to get your favorite show ad-free and exclusive access to the members-only Discords. For those of you on video, we send you to the first ever 24/7 Locked On National Podcast Network YouTube channel. On audio, make sure you make your second listen Locked On College Football. You can follow me on any social media platform at jstevens07. Send every email to jstevens317@gmail.com. This has been Locked On Buckeyes on a Monday. We'll see you next time.